One of our roles as current or future teacher educators in doctoral degree granting institutions is to prepare the next generation of teacher educators and scholars. In reflecting on or preparing for the creation of the doctoral curriculum, we might ask some essential questions. What is it that we want students to know, understand, and be able to do? What is essential to the formation of a scholar and his or her future success in the field? Most are likely to agree that doctoral programs in education are designed, in part, to enable students to ask important and meaningful questions, synthesize prior research and scholarship in education and related fields, design and conduct research independently, examine and address perplexing pedagogical questions, and effectively share the results of their work with others. Accomplishing these goals could be facilitated by the application of signature pedagogies, a term coined and described by Lee Shulman as characteristic forms of teaching and learning that prepare future professionals for developing specific habits within a given discipline. Shulman suggests pedagogy should closely align with the professional roles that a given program is designed to prepare students to fill. Shulman stated that understanding is necessary but not sufficient. A person should understand and be prepared to act, to perform, and practice. What does that mean for education professors? It means acting, performing, and practicing as teachers, advisors, and researchers, serving the needs of our students, our universities, as well as our local and broader communities. We do that, in part, by disseminating our work through publications and presentations, yet many aspects of these processes are unclear and challenging to those beginning their careers in academia. This, in part, led to the design of a one-credit doctoral seminar on disseminating scholarship in education. The topic of disseminating scholarship was one of many ideas I bounced around for doctoral students to choose from for a one-hour special topics seminar. The majority were interested in the topic. For most, it was because they realized it was so critical to their role as future professors. For others, it seemed to be because of the mysteries of getting work published, i.e., the peer review process. And for a few, it was to learn more about the ways to be disciplined writers. The seminar was designed around the various ways that education academics might disseminate their work, both traditional and emergent, and framed around written and spoken forms. The course also offered students opportunities to review books on subtopics of their interest, find related readings, lead class discussions, formally present on selected topics, and write proposals for specific venues. The purpose of our presentation, which like the seminar was student-generated, is to share our experiences in this seminar and consider how it shaped our thinking and helped to develop specific habits of the hand and mind essential to the professorship. The presentation will be divided into two main themes on the topic of dissemination: written forms and spoken forms. Presenters will provide a snapshot of their experience in the seminar.
When we think about writing for publication in academia, the audience for whom we are writing is a very important consideration. In my own experiences, talking with former colleagues from my time as a public school teacher, publication in academia is often considered by practitioners to be esoteric and not always relevant to their practice. It is for exactly this reason that, as scholars who will potentially be communicating with different audiences within the music education spectrum, we must tailor our writing to the audience we are trying to reach. Choosing both appropriate language and an appropriate tone for the journal at hand are essential. An integral part of this seminar for many of us was expanding our understanding of journal eminence and how there are a variety of literature types, such as research journals, professional journals, magazines, and newsletters that provide avenues for different types of writing under the auspices of both scholarly writing as well as practical writing. Having a combination of PhD and DMA students in our class led to enlightening discussions about the different characteristics of the writing styles that we saw in each of the journals that we examined. Related to journal eminence were class discussions dealing with how to most effectively prepare our manuscripts, as well as the peer review process that is part of publishing. Both preparation and peer review are informed by the submission guidelines that are put forth by each journal. We learned that the peer review process is not uniform across the board, but having at least a basic understanding of the process and understanding what it is to think like a reviewer can help to inform our writing prior to the submission of our work. Participating in mock peer reviewing, both as a reviewer and as a writer, was suggested as being a way to learn how to see through both of these lenses. Another area that was examined in this seminar was that of the actual physical process that we go through when writing. One member of the class stated that being in the seminar helped drive home the message that all writers, even seasoned ones, struggled with perfectionism, writer's block, and feeling that their writing isn't good enough. Discussing parts of Annie Lamott's book, Bird by Bird, provided us with valuable advice on setting writing schedules, finding our voices as writers, and silencing the voices that tend to impede our progress in early drafts of our articles. Each member of the class also did a book review on a book of his or her choosing that related to either presentations or writing. Some of these books, like Lamott's book, offered useful tips on creating habits that are conducive to productive writing. Now I'm going to turn things over to a couple of my colleagues who are going to tell you about some of the big ideas that they took away from the various activities and discussions from class. Stan will speak about publications for scholarly journals, and then Sarah will speak about publications for practical journals.
While a better understanding of writing and publishing within research formats was a key takeaway for us, another facet of the seminar was writing as practitioners and within scholarly practitioner formats. Differences in style, not value, were emphasized, and examining formats in which theory and practice are interwoven added to our scholarly palette. For me, this approach to navigating the theory to practice continuum gave a balanced perspective of contributions that are essential to our field. Our discussions of fit, audience, and evaluative criteria surrounded the publication format rather than personal biases or value judgments. I think having two DMA colleagues in the seminar also helped balance perspectives within our group. For instance, one expressed an understanding of how personal truths and passions can appropriately come across in scholarship, while the other noted expanding the process and organization of writing. Their perspectives highlight a personal and process-oriented nature, which was meaningful to my own experience in the seminar. After all, Anne Lamott reminded us that writing is a process. Just take it bird by bird. Lamott's wisdom struck a chord with our class in general and has become a quiet mantra alongside other takeaways. These points illustrate perhaps both practical and conceptual goals of the seminar. On one hand, we were steeped in examples of eminent scholarship and its attributes, and on the other, we were afforded the opportunity to explore ourselves as writers honing a craft.
Similar to publications, when planning and discussing presentations, audience continues to be a central theme. Be it the in-service teacher practitioner or the more academic research-based scholarly audience, knowing and understanding who is in the audience is essential. Additional components of how one chooses to deliver the information and what additional mediums or activities will be used creates additional options and challenges for the presenter. Awareness and flexibility during presentations also becomes important because of audience body language and behaviors. We ask ourselves, is the audience engaged during the presentation? Do I need to change what I'm doing or how I'm saying my information? Am I able to deviate from my plans and still convey the intended messages to better accommodate the setting? Among other things, effective presentations are often engaging, interactive, and appeal to multiple senses. Research and other scholarly presentations have typically taken the form of poster sessions or verbal lectures. The use of relevant visual aids can help simplify complex information and bring out salient points. The challenges of keeping audiences engaged during lectures can be difficult, but using slides with minimal text, relevant images, and enthusiasm in delivery can aid presentations. Delivery of a practitioner-based presentation or workshop also uses visuals to stimulate senses while simplifying concepts. Common practices often create participant interaction through planned activities. Active participation keeps the audiences engaged and excited about learning and retaining the content. Creating presentations that electrify the audiences requires energy, creativity, and plenty of rehearsal. Most of all, some of the strongest presentations appear effortless, but only because of proper preparation. Presentation structure, referring to format, tone, and the varying levels of interaction between the presenter and audience, as well as among audience members, is also important to consider. The idea of being the sole presenter, co-presenter, or on a panel of presenters can change the dynamics of the overall presentation. We explored how platforms like Prezi, Keynote, or PowerPoint are there to enhance the presentation, not distract from it. The use of audio, visual, or other technology reinforces the flow of the presentation. Our class was able to explore YouTube videos, TED Talks, printed materials, and other resources to enhance our understanding of effective presentations, and more importantly, open creative doors that best fit our individual disseminating needs. Most importantly, we are able to provide audiences with different ways to connect with information. After all, everyone learns differently. There are some great resources we discovered that have changed how we engage our audiences during presentations. For example, the YouTube video, How to Make a Presentation Like Steve Jobs, and Reynolds' book, Presentation Zen, are resources that resonated well with this class. Sandy will now discuss her experiences with scholarly presentations, and later Craig will discuss his experiences with practitioner presentations.
Being a first-year doctoral student at the time, this seminar was a huge eye-opener to me when it came to presenting research. I had defended my master's thesis the semester before in addition to attending a number of my colleagues' defenses and was under the impression that research presentations were all more or less the same. I looked back on the presentations I saw and thought about how similar they were. We all presented our information in the same format, and it seemed like the only differences were the subject of interest and the color scheme of the PowerPoint slides. At this time, I accepted this. My understanding was that research presentations needed to be technical, therefore there wasn't room to be creative. After being exposed to a variety of presenters from other disciplines, I began to start believing that every presentation could tell a story. They didn't always have to follow a pre-scripted purpose, method, result line of argument through a wordy PowerPoint slide. I felt like this seminar gave me permission, if you will, to explore the possibilities on how I might present my research in more artistic ways. I stopped typing long-winded bullet points on my PowerPoint slides and started zenning them up through pictures and images. This also helped my presentation skills since I no longer relied on reading off of every slide. Now, this new presenter in me did not develop overnight. For the past year, I have experimented with different mediums. Some worked and some didn't. For instance, I thought I was being out of the box by using Prezi, but I quickly realized my colleagues were getting bad cases of motion sickness from the way I set up the presentation. Luckily, I bounced back later on with a philosophy project that I created and narrated through iMovie. The way that I create my own presentations and the way that I look at others have forever changed by the heightened awareness and confidence that I gained from this seminar.
Presentations were embedded in the course. In the first half, we were divided into groups of 2 or 3 and selected readings, led discussions, and provided activities. We were explicitly encouraged to teach the class, and the activities we provided were very much in the spirit of a practitioner presentation. The second half of the term was devoted to presentations. Book reports were the first set of presentations taking place over 2 class sessions. Following each report, the class discussed the content of the book and the manner of presentation. Our final activity was a proposal presentation for a study, article, chapter, or presentation. In both the book report and the proposal discussion, several points of focus began to emerge. Clear, explicit statements of purpose, slide construction, pacing, and preparation. For many of us, a pivotal moment in the class was when one of the DMA students brought the book Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds to our attention. Its ideas of clarity, simplicity, and distillation influenced many of our presentations, including my own. My resulting final proposal attempted to apply these concepts. Class discussion and feedback from the professor were helpful in guiding the proposal into final form as a session at the Florida Music Educators Association Clinic Conference several months later. I co-taught the session with a voice pedagogue who had not taken the course. We shared the same interest in providing a clear and central purpose and engaging the attendees in efficient and engaging activities. We did, however, have some striking differences in our approach to presenting. For example, I was concerned about careful timing, sequence, and preparation. My colleague, however, preferred a looser format that allowed time to riff and respond to the audience. Another difference between us can be seen in our slide construction. My slides were intended to carefully distill information into salient forms, while my colleague preferred to provide content in the slide. The most important takeaway for me was what happened after the presentation. Both of us received strong positive feedback on our presentation. Some attendees clearly preferred my so-called Zen approach, while others preferred the slides with greater content. For my final product, the synthesis of styles proved to be its greatest strength. As we said at the beginning of this session, audience is the principal consideration, and practitioner audiences are certainly more varied in experience, specialty, and taste than an audience of scholars. Knowing the nature of the variety seems to be an important key in designing effective practitioner presentation.